Yo, yo, yo. Test 1, 2, test. What's good people? Immersive here. And fun fact, I've been a Florida man my entire life. I have lived in both North Florida and South Florida, and I've actually lived in Miami for about 10 years now. So I've had a lot of friends that want to come down to Miami, check out the scene, but they only see a part of the picture, right? You kind of just see the beaches, you see the the nice weather, you see the kind of relaxed lifestyle, but no one really knows, well, very few know what it's like to really live in Miami, South Florida, but Miami in particular. So I wanted to give my top 10 things that I wish I knew before moving to Miami. I've got 5 pros, 5 cons. Let me know what you think in the comments if anything was missed. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So I'm gonna be referencing my little notebook here. One thing that was important for me to mention, just a disclaimer, this wouldn't necessarily apply, I guess it kind of could, but wouldn't necessarily apply to those that are tourists or those that are just passing through. People that have lived here their whole life, they pretty much know how, the lay of the land. But this is for people that plan on moving down here for work, young families looking to move to South Florida, those that may be looking at an investment property. Maybe you're trying to figure out if buying an Airbnb or renting out an Airbnb is going to be the best fit for you. Perhaps business owners, snowbirds, those kind of people that plan on staying here for 6 months or longer. That's exactly who this video is for. All right, so the first one, the first pro, it's actually first pro and con are kind of related. So I'll lump them together. So the first one is the exceptional weather here in the dry season. So Florida has 2 seasons. From a climate standpoint, there's a wet season and there's a dry season. The dry season is the peak time of the year. It's typically between Thanksgiving and Memorial Day. And then the wet season is the opposite. Dry season is characterized by temperatures in the 60s. The lows are going to be in the 60s Fahrenheit, and then the highs are going to be into the upper 70s into the mid 80s at the max. Really, the key thing, however, is the low humidity that really keeps the temperatures pleasant. There's typically a breeze associated with it, and that really makes for very, very pleasant weather throughout the dry season. If we're on our best behavior, sometime we'll get weather down into the 50s, sometime the 40s, so we can bust out that winter coat that we've been waiting all year to wear for a couple of days, and then take it off by midday as temperatures get back up into the 70s and 80s. On the flip side of that, the first con would definitely be the wet season. Right now it's August, so in the middle of the day, typically we'll have heat advisories, because even though the high temperature may only get into the 80s, well, into the 90s really, the heat index will get into the triple digits easily. Just this past few weeks, we had heat indices around 110, 115 degrees. That's the feels like weather. It feels like 115 outside, just because the humidity is so oppressive, and it's just like you're swimming in your own sweat. It's an awful feeling. You can go outside for 5 minutes, be completely drenched, and it makes for a terrible time just being outside. On top of that, every day is pretty much a coin flip in the wet season if you're gonna have a storm push through. Typically storms don't last too long, maybe 30-40 minutes, but every now and then we do get washouts where the entire day is just pouring, torrential downpours, lightning, hail, sometimes gusty winds. They are really like mini hurricanes, and they can push through almost without warning throughout any time of the day. So, and I mentioned hurricanes. I mean, hurricane season is from June 1st through November 30th, and we're approaching peak hurricane season. September and October is really when the tropics get active from both the Gulf side and the Atlantic side, even up from the Caribbean. Hurricanes are a very real possibility. Miami has been lucky over the past, I'd say probably decade or so. We haven't had any direct hits in this particular area, but there have been hurricanes like Ian and Hurricane Irma back in 2017 or 2018, which devastated the west coast of Florida. But it's something to keep in mind if you're planning on moving down here, that hurricanes are a very real possibility. So make sure you have your hurricane supplies as well as your hurricane plan ready, just in case you need to take action. So pro number 2 is that Miami is a cosmopolitan city. I mean, there's so much diversity here, and it's very unique for most American cities. I would say that you'd probably only see this type of diversity in New York City for sure, Los Angeles, maybe, possibly Washington, D.C. And that's really, I don't know if you can hear it, it's raining now. It's really because Miami is the gateway to the Caribbean and Latin America. I mean, there's so many cultures here in the South Florida area, particularly Miami-Dade, where you're gonna have your Cubans, your Venezuelans, your Dominicans, Jamaicans, your Haitians, a huge mix of South Americans, and then of course the American culture is alive and well down here as well. So what I've noticed is that people tend to be a lot more accepting of other cultures just because they're used to seeing it on an everyday basis. We kind of live in a very nice harmony down in South Florida, or like I said, more in Miami-Dade County, just because there's more people down here. Even our ballots are in 3 languages. Our election ballots, you'll have a version in English, Spanish, and Creole, to make sure that all or as many cultures are encompassed with the voting process. And then my second con, and it's not necessarily a con, it's more of just a reality here. Miami-Dade, let me get the real numbers for you here. Yeah, it's pouring. It's almost midnight. I'm filming this, and it is pouring. All right, as of 2020, the Miami-Dade population that is Hispanic or Latino is at 68.7%. Knowing Spanish really helps a lot. It opens up a lot of doors. It gives you a lot of flexibility with who you can talk to, how you can talk to them, how they will be able to respond and talk to you or trust you, just because it's embedded in the culture here. Some cities in the area, like your Doral, Hialeah, those cities in the Little Havana neighborhood, knowing Spanish is important to keep in mind, because a lot of residents in those communities speak only Spanish. There are many times where they don't know English at all. Even though they live in the US, they don't know English at all. So having Spanish in your back pocket is super useful, and it just gets you more access really to opportunities if you're bilingual. All right, so pro number 3 is that and I kind of mentioned a little bit, Miami is the gateway to the Caribbean, Latin America, and the world. So there's 2 major airports in South Florida. There is Miami International Airport, and then Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, a little further to the north. From those 2 airports, you can get to almost anywhere in Central, South America, and the Caribbean. It makes it easy to travel across this region. So you can get to West Coast. Alaska has some flights out here, so you can get to like Seattle. Getting to Vegas is pretty easy. Getting to New York is very easy. Delta has daily flights to and from Atlanta, multiple out of Fort Lauderdale and Miami. Getting to Houston, Chicago are quite easy via United and American. And there's also some transatlantic flights. Also, there's I think French Bee has a flight to Paris. There are British Airways and American flights to London, a daily Emirates flight to Dubai. Lufthansa has a flight to Germany, and some flights to Italy. So it's a major hub, not just for South America and Central America and the Caribbean, but also to points east. All right, so Port Miami is the largest passenger port in the world. So all of the major cruise lines have some sort of operation out of Port Miami. There's Norwegian, there's Carnival, there's Royal Caribbean, Princess, Celebrity. Virgin has a new boat out of there as well. So if you're looking to cruise, Miami's got it. And then on top of that, you're only about 3 hours from Orlando and about 4 hours from Tampa, 5 hours to Jacksonville. Speaking about traffic though, that's my third con, is that traffic in Miami-Dade County in particular is quite bad. And I could make an entire series on the traffic in Miami-Dade County. The city infrastructure is really only ready for a city about half the size or half the population of what Miami actually provides. There are constantly road improvement projects to try and mitigate the crazy traffic issues that are going on within the city. Downtown especially is a disaster, for lack of a better word. Right now they're trying to They being I believe this is the county, building a bypass from the airport or from the Dolphin Expressway to go over I-95 and then over toward the beaches in the downtown area. I don't think that it's really going to rectify the traffic issue. It's just going to look really pretty. Yeah, so I'm not gonna dwell on that a whole lot, but I did want to at least point out that the traffic is quite bad. Pro number 4, if you want to be seen in Miami, you can definitely do it. There's fashion and luxury everywhere. So if you're looking for a scene to be seen, this is where you want to be. In Miami, you're really dressing to impress. It's a flex city. You know, people do it for the gram every day, and they do it in Miami. You know, it's just the land of excess where people really want to flex and floss a bit and be kind of flashy. Got the Lambos going down the street. You got the Rolls Royces. You know, it's very real here. The high-end hotels, all of that. You know, and then some of the neighborhoods you have like Brickell City Center, which is a really high-end destination for a bunch of luxury brands. Ball Harbor Shops is another spot that has super high-end brands. Audemars Piguet, they're all here. They're all here. What the hell are you doing? Sorry, it was just dinging and making all kinds of noise. Like it had no manners, no home training. And then con number 4 is just having that fast-paced lifestyle. If that's not you, you come from a slower pace, you really don't want to see, you know, people flossing like that. Or some people it's just too much. Like my dad, he's like, wow, Miami is just like New York. It's too much for me. I prefer a slower pace of life. It's gonna be too much. You know, the traffic, the people, the buildings. Also, if you're looking for a bike-friendly city or pedestrian-friendly city, Miami is not it. There are very few pedestrian-friendly areas throughout the city, and bikers, be very careful. Hit and runs, unfortunately, quite common here. The city's not built. They didn't plan for bike-friendly areas in the area, nor do they really implement it. It's kind of like, well, you're on the same street as a car, so figure it out. Good luck. Don't die. And also, at the same token, you have pedestrians who really don't care about their own safety. It feels like, you know, they'll walk out in the middle of the street, across green, you know, a street that has a green light when they're not supposed to. You know, the hand is up and saying, "Do not walk," and they're like, "That looks like a good time to go." People have stopped driving. You know, they'll walk out there in the middle of the street. So be careful of that. Be cognizant of that people will jump out in the middle of the street and then they'll almost dare you to hit them. Like, I wish you would hit me. You know, and I'm like, well, you know, a ton of metal. This will hurt. Pro number 5 is that Miami is just a destination city. People come here to enjoy not just the weather and the atmosphere, but also some top tier events that come down. Beyonce was just here, you know, sold out at the Hard Rock Stadium. And then there's also the signature, you know, a lot of signature music events, signature events, period. You've got Rolling Loud, Ultra Music Festival, the South Florida Wine and Food Festival is here. Art Basel is here. Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show up in Fort Lauderdale, of course, but I mean, the biggest in the world. You've got the best restaurants. You've got some of the best food here. People really just long to be in Miami. Businesses are aware of that too. And then, of course, you've got one of the few cities that has all 4 of the major sports teams. So you've got the Heat, you've got the Dolphins, you've got the Marlins, and you've got the Panthers in the South Florida area. And then I'll add a 5th here. You've got the MLS team, Inter Miami CF, who's here. And Lionel Messi is just tearing it up right now. So all of that makes for a big destination city for Miami. But then because of all this demand, the last con is that Miami is quite expensive. That's con number 5. Upward pressure on the pricing throughout the county, and it's spreading out into Broward and Palm Beach County as well. It's just expensive to live here. It's very possible to see $2,500, $3,000 for a studio in some of the more higher profile areas. Restaurants are more expensive, hotels are more expensive, and that's not to say that you can't find good deals every now and then. Even in some of the more higher end areas, it's just more expensive than what you'd see in, say, Orlando or Tampa. But then again, I guess people are paying a premium to live in paradise. So that's my list. You know, I hope that it was all encompassing and kind of painted a better picture of what living in Miami is like on a daily basis. Obviously, Miami has its ups and its downs. I've been here for almost 10 years, and I have found a little bit more to like about Miami than the things that I dislike. So that's really kept me here. I think that it's a fantastic place to live. However, I know that it's not for everybody. And some people come here, you know, they're coming to visit and they're just like, oh, I could live here. But then they live here for a couple months and they're just like, it's not what I thought it was gonna be. And you always have those people that just come here and they crash and burn, you know, they go too hard and they get caught up in the Miami lifestyle, and it can, if you're not careful, it can eat you up and it'll spit you out for sure. Be sure to like this video if you liked what you heard, if you thought that it was useful for you, or feel free to share it with somebody who you think who's thinking about moving to Miami. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell if you enjoyed this and want to see more content like it. Thanks for your time. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Immersive, MMERSIVE, and I hope to catch you the next time. Peace.